Good. It almost feels like I scheduled for this conversation. Almost feels like I scheduled my stubble. You know, like I shaved 3 days ago because I knew that we were coming to this today.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
You wanted to be fresh.
Yeah. So I think we're started now. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So this here is Bobby, our Syst3m Glitch.
Hey there.
This here. Do you want
The
to
other guy.
introduce me?
I don't know where you are. This is Dimi Kaye.
So today we're gonna talk about what, Bobby?
We are going to talk about a couple things. I think the best thing to do is to kind of maybe set up real quick what we're talking about, and then we'll get into some background on each of us maybe. And I think that'll really help set the stage for how we're going to try to be beneficial today. We're going to talk about collaboration. We're going to talk about relationships, how to work with somebody on a project together, especially someone who might have been a stranger, but also somebody who could be a friend that you just don't know quite yet how to navigate those waters with. So that was my thought.
Let me say first that you actually did and do professional work in music. Yes, so you know deeply what's happening there.
Sure.
I'm more of a DIY indie producer, doing most of the things and learning most of the things on my own. So we have two different mindsets and experiences.
Yeah.
And we can share it and see what works in both.
Yeah. And I'll say this: both are valid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm indie now too, so I've gone a really weird path. Like I started out in, professional music and ended up like finding my way into a career as an artist as well. So I've gone from working for labels and studios and things to being indie. So I've seen it all, you know what I mean? And some of these conversations that I've had around collaboration, they look very different when you're an engineer sitting in a room listening to bands talk to producers and all this versus being on your own and maybe having a small label, if any, to support you. Right.
Exactly.
So, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you have the experience, so you can probably show something way different that many of us cannot understand or find or experience as soon or while we begin our journey in music.
Yeah, I think I do look at myself as a teacher. Like that's the thing I love doing. I love teaching. I love sharing. And if I may not be able to show you or show anybody how to get somewhere fast, but I can show a lot of folks how to avoid making similar mistakes. Yes. And so I guess you will get somewhere faster if you don't fall in a hole. So I guess it does make sense. But I think this, Dimi, I know I can't speak for you, but I know we've talked candidly so many times. We've all made bad judgment calls when it comes to collaborating or working on a project. And just as important as sharing positive experiences and like these best practice bullet points or whatever, it's also important to share some stories sometimes of like how something went sideways, because you never start in a collaboration expecting it to fall apart.
Exactly.
You never expect, the beginning of any collab is like high five, let's do it. You know what I mean? And, there's just 1,000 different things that can go down. And a lot of it can be avoided, you know?
It's important to discuss things that go sideways, because sometimes those mistakes might be huge ones that you don't want to make and you should avoid, like signing a contract that you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
An example. Yeah. So I think it's good to discuss the mindset, the positivity, how to approach something like that, and what to avoid, what definitely not to do. Yeah. And with examples probably.
And I think we could probably talk for hours and hours and hours about this. Like we could very easily jump into like, let's just say the subject of remixes. We could spend 2 hours on remixes, you know, how to approach a remix, how to have the relationship, how to do things ethically. All of that, like you could have tons of conversation around it, but today we're just kind of talking about the general working together.
Exactly.
You know, so Yeah, so I guess Dimi, like you said, you're a little more indie. I am now too, but with the background, I think that's enough on like maybe our walks of life or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe let's talk a little bit about the different formats of collaboration,
Yeah.
because I think these terms get thrown around a lot, and I think as like an independent producer or maybe like a young producer. It can be very easy to not have any idea what's being said, but also not want to come across looking uninformed. So you just kind of nod your head, and then later on you try to Google whatever it was that somebody said to you, right?
Yes.
So, and unfortunately, sometimes when you're trying to look smart, you agree to things that you don't know what you're agreeing to. So,
Smile and nod. Yeah.
smile and nod. Yeah, yeah. So, what's like you do this more than I do. So let's start with work for hire.
Yeah.
What is work for hire?
How I see it and how it probably is. Usually, when I work with someone, I would like to have my name up there as a feature, probably, because my work, I want it to be my portfolio. When someone doesn't want to do that, or even give me percentages of my work, they will have to pay me. They will pay me for my work. It's like paying someone to fix a wall of on your house that it's like it has some breaks or whatever.
Yeah.
He doesn't own the wall. He doesn't own your house. He does the work and you pay them. It's the same thing with work for hire. Someone will come to me, will ask me to do something for them, play some solos, play guitar parts. We will decide on some money when the job is finished, and it's always way more than it would be in a collaboration where I'm a feature, because I gain, besides money, I gain pretty much nothing else.
Right.
I don't have my name up there. Nobody knows I took part in that.
Yeah. Now, before we get any further, we were talking about this earlier when we were kind of just getting ready to have this talk. I think it's important to say that if you just want to work with somebody because it's fun,
Yeah.
and you just want to make a good piece of music, and that's the only expectation, then go do it. But I think the key that you'll find a lot throughout our conversation, I think we'll come back a lot to saying this wouldn't have happened or this works out better if you discuss it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So in the beginning, set the expectation, like, are we going to try to publish this? Are we making this just because we're bored?
Yeah.
And who cares? Dimi, you and I share an artist in common.
Yeah, Turbo.
Turbo, who sometimes just is like, I'm making music because I don't care.
Yeah.
And the songs that we make sometimes never get released.
Yeah.
And I'm the other way around, right? So he has to deal with me too, because my take on it is more, what's the intended outcome of this song? Like, where are we going to publish this? How are we going to monetize it? And, are you going to handle the advertising and the marketing, or are we going to, and I just go way down here. He's like, dude, just sing the chorus. You know what? And I find myself, I actually typed questions about the outcome of the song longer than it would have taken for me to just get on my mic and sing something. It's like I could have been done already.
And through experience, we both know that Turbo, when it's time to divide everything on the track,
it's fair and it's quick.
He does.
Yeah.
He knows exactly how this works, and he knows it because we have worked all together on it, and we know what we expect from each other. But when we get in a collaboration, for whatever reason, make sure first that you know what you want out of it, and that the other person also knows what you want out of it.
Yeah.
And then you can find something in the middle and decide if you're gonna do it.
Yeah. And this conversation should be quick too.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be like an interview or bullet points that you send to somebody. I don't want anybody who watches this video to think that it's probably the best idea to now prepare some sort of form.
Not at all.
Because that's not what we're talking about. We're not saying like formalize this whole process of collaborations over to the point where all the joy gets sucked out of it. Because frankly, if you're not enjoying making the music, it's going to show in your work, and you're not going to make good music. Yeah. So, or at least as good as it could be. Creativity goes away when you're not happy about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So neither partner in a collab or a feature or whatever relationship should ever really deserves to have a partner that's like checked out.
Yeah,
You know, like one person's working really hard and the other person doesn't care. That's misalignment. That's not going to work. You know?
If that happens, then don't spend your time on it. Do something else.
So what are let's go on to the other definitions, right? We talked about work for hire. We're kind of talking about collabing right now, like an official collab, especially in our scene, like synthwave, as I've discovered. Now, again, I know I'm relatively new. I've been around for about a year, but I've had 23 tracks out. During time, and probably I would say like 60% of them are either collaborations, remixes, or features. So that said, like collabing truly is where, to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think it's two or more artists getting together and saying, yeah, maybe somebody's going to pick one area of the project to work on more than the other, but generally what we're going to do is we're going to try to like equally throw our talents in, and we will all be songwriters. We will all be producers. We will all be sort of a shared kind of like, we did this together, you know? And then generally with a collaboration, I think the intended outcome on that traditionally is like a revenue split, you know? So like doing streaming or publishing or stuff like that, you're selling physicals or whatever. I think that should be shared income. That's just my personal opinion.
The thing that I want to add on that is that in synthwave and with like DistroKit that we use, it's easy to split shares. So if you want to collaborate with someone, it costs you nothing to give them a percentage, especially if they did work. So for us, it's very easy to do a collaboration. You don't pay anything out of your pocket, so it's easy. If you want to pay something out of your pocket, then you go in another direction completely. We can talk about it later. But the nice thing to do, the correct thing to do is to see, did they do work on your music? Do you want them to be a collaborator? Give them something. It doesn't cost you anything.
And literally collaboration comes from the words co-labor, right? It means to work together, right? So that's the reason that I think this is the way the expectation is.
Usually I also now, after some years, I also think that we properly need to split everything. But because I know that most of the producers in our scene do it out of love, and they probably don't have experience like I don't have a huge experience in music, or they are not trained musicians, or they know nothing about the business of music. Usually, I personally stay on the splits. I say, give me that percentage if you want me to do a feature, and I'm fine. Normally, you would have to split everything, but it's a big hassle to split sales in Bandcamp, for example. You would have to have an accountant doing this all the time. And I know that many people can't do that, cannot afford that.
Yeah, I think that's tricky because there are automated systems that will help artists to do this for one another. The one, like Dimi said, is like you said, is DistroKid. Where the streaming revenue is automatically set up and sent to each songwriter, as it were. The other system is actually any of your performing rights organizations, like BMI or ASCAP. So there are those, and what the performing rights organizations, all they do is they work with you on sync, which is like film and commercials and stuff. Like, you should make extra cash out of sync. We'll talk about that another day. But like, as far as like, but what'll happen is if you're listed as a songwriter, and that's for songwriting, not for producing, it doesn't mean, you know, but if you lay down, see, I think this is the trick too. I gotta pause for a second, because like producing is tricky. The word producing in big music business generally usually means somebody who took something that was written and just executed it. You know, it usually doesn't represent somebody who brought a fresh, their own idea to the table. And this is where, like, I think in like, go ahead.
You mean for today that happens today? Because I
say.
thought in the past producer was someone that would take an arrangement and
Yeah.
make it even better or change stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is that there's a distinction between a songwriter and a producer.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yes.
And I think and it comes down to more than just lyrics and vocals. And I think sometimes people get mixed up like, "Oh, well, I wrote the lyrics, so I'm the songwriter." And that's not accurate at all.
No.
A producer is also a songwriter if they're creating chord structures, they're creating melodic material, they're creating rhythmic decisions, because guess what, drums are an instrument too, guys.
Of course.
You know, like all of these things. And so like that is songwriting as well. So songwriting should be defined as, to me, like creating any of the musical decisions of a production, right? It may not be how you mixed your bass line in. That's not songwriting, that's engineering. You know, but if you're like, hey, you know what, I really like an A on the bottom here instead of an F, you know what I mean? Like, that's a songwriting choice. Sorry. Yeah. You know, and that's songwriting. And so, like, I think there's all these, like, urban legends that you hear people talk about, right? Where it's like, oh, well, there was somebody sitting in the studio one day during the session. They were like, hey, what if you said, like, we can do it instead of he can do it? And they're like, oh, that's a really good idea. And then suddenly he's like, I want my 5%. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like that has happened, I guess. Otherwise, that wouldn't be a story you keep on hearing told. But don't be a jerk.
Exactly.
It's really that simple. But yeah, so that's collaborating is pretty much that. I think remixing is something maybe I could talk on, and then we can go on to featuring and songwriting. I think those would be, we already talked about songwriting. But featuring is definitely more an area for you to share on. So remixing, like, just to define it, is really taking a completed, already published work and then partnering with the original producer or songwriter to obtain assets from that project. I cannot make this clear enough. I've seen so many situations where people will just be like, well, you got the song, it's on Spotify, remix it. It's like, well, no. You know, obviously, you know, that's not who we're talking, hopefully talking to people that, you know this already. But, you know, I think you're really trying to get the assets from the song, and it doesn't have to be all the assets. You know, some producers don't want to give you their individual drum samples, especially. It's very tricky because drums make an artist sometimes. You know, I've got a guy who's in my world who is a published artist, you know, and he's becoming a dear friend. And I was like, hey, that snare on that one song that you did is awesome. And he's like, yeah, I can't give it to you. I'm sorry. It's like it's the center point of my whole sound. So like, if I give you my snare, then what am I? You know, and I kind of get that, because like if you spend hours and hours and hours crafting a noise, producers, you don't owe it to anyone. If you're going to be awesome and you want to create a big folder full of snares and toms and kicks and hi-hats and stuff that you like, just think other people can use, you know, that's fine. I have got certain sounds that I guard as well. You know, there's certain, like, if you've heard anything I've been working on lately, every time I throw like a pan flute in there, like, I'll tell you where it came from. I'm not going to tell you how I made that noise. You know what I mean? I'm not even going to do it on stream. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's a trade secret. You know what I mean? That's what trade secrets are.
It's a part of your sound, yeah.
Yeah.
It's your sound.
Yeah, like there's a painter back in, what was it, the Renaissance, I guess his name was Titian. And he had a particular shade of red that he was known for, and he didn't tell anybody how to mix it. And it was literally, it's called Titian Red. Like, it's the, you know, like, that's a thing. It's a thing. Trade secrets have been around since the Renaissance, is what I'm saying. Like, it's nothing, it's nothing new. But that a remix is to take all of those elements, whatever's provided to you, and then reimagine the song in a direction that's musically different enough to set it apart from the original. You're not trying to just remake the song. It already exists. Why would you do that? So, but what you are looking to do is maybe alter melodies, alter rhythms, maybe alter the chord structures, alter the instrumentation choices. And then from like a business perspective, remixing, I've got a soft spot for this because I love being a remixer, but I think it's really important for the artist who is providing the remix and I'll give a spanking to both parties here, okay? But like to the artist who's providing the remix assets, it is important to realize that you didn't do anything except for send them files.
Yes.
And you're gonna get a song that you get to publish. Don't be stingy with the split. Why? Why would you do that? So, like, I recommend, this is just me, you don't have to do this. You don't even have to do this for me if you work with me in the future. But, like, I recommend 50%. I think it's a fair split to say, you know what, this person already had a head start because we wrote a song for him. But then we also didn't do any extra work. So, 50-50 to me just kind of makes sense.
My first remix, I don't do remixes. I rarely do them. Because I change completely everything, I just keep the vocals. I don't know how to do it other way. But the first time I did the remix, the artist gave me 70%. And I thought, that's a lot.
Wow.
That's cool. That made sense. Yeah. After some time, I discovered that 50% is what it should be the baseline, the proper split, in my opinion. Because indeed, you don't do anything. The main artist doesn't do anything. Yeah. They get a new song that they can share, and they can keep being active on social media, yes, yeah. And hopefully they have something completely new out of their music and make some good connections and maybe share a different audience from the remixer. So I guess, in my opinion, 50% is a pretty good split.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if a remixer, especially on a basis of like reputation, asks you for money. Don't be surprised. It's in actual business, there's a certain importance in collecting a deposit, and there's a possibility of being paid upon completion as well, and that may still accompany the split, you know. But you've got all these factors to figure in, you know. What say you give all of these assets, we call them stems, right? All the different channels. Let's say you give all these stems to a remixer. They start. They do work. They don't hug their kids. They don't hug their wife. They skip dinner. They're working until 2 a.m. The next day comes around. They cancel plans with their friends because they're so excited about this remix, and then you change your mind. You don't want to release a remix. It's within your right to do that, right? Go ahead.
And this is the part that we need to actually touch, that sometimes it's good to have a contract down, an agreement between the two.
Yeah.
Continue.
So yeah, I think you know, there's a reason for deposits to exist, is what I'm saying. It's like basically, personally, like if I'm remixing somebody and they can't do any fashion of deposit, it immediately tells me that they think I'm not worth anything. It tells me that the work that I'm doing, and I get that, I see your face over there.
And I'll tell you why.
But what it says to me is this person is about to put a whole bunch of effort in. And there's a lot of things that as an artist I'm willing to pay for, but it's not for his time. You know what I mean? So that's okay. Just that, as on my end, that's what I see, that's what I feel.
Yes.
You know, not to say that that's always the truth. You know?
No. I totally understand it. And as we move forward to something more professional with our music, then this comes often to our lives, comes more often. That's that conversation, that we need to actually do that. In my opinion, from what I've seen, most of the artists in synthwave, in my years, most of the artists were like fans that wanted to do that kind of music. Some of them didn't have the extra money to put in their music. Yeah. So I understand when someone doesn't have the money to give to the artist. But if you do a collaboration or a remix for someone or something like that, then you need to have something in check. If someone cannot pay you the deposit, then something else needs to happen. Because I have lost work that I did for other people, because they just decided one day to delete everything. I lost my percentages. All my work does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. There are the two sides of the coin. And
I haven't even been around long to see that happen. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a...
In time, when you begin to collaborate with people and do stuff with other people, it's fun, it's exciting, it's cool. You make connections, but after some time, you discover that you put a lot of time in it and eventually you don't want that time to be lost. You want to get out of it, something out of it. If it's a percentage, which is the base minimum, it's great. If someone can give you a deposit, then it's fine, because even if the song disappears, you got something out of it. Eventually you need to get something out of your music in order for you to feel that your music is doing something and push you to continue making it. To being active.
Yeah, I think nothing demotivates a creator more than like broken or false promises, or just a feeling of being like, I mean, you know, let's be honest, like if you've made it this far through the video, you're creative. You know what I mean? So, you know, and so if you are a creative, you're probably more emotional than the person you walked by in the grocery store this morning. You know what I mean? And so for you, feelings actually matter. And if you didn't have them, you wouldn't be making good art. And when somebody stomps on those feelings, directly or indirectly, by accident or on purpose, it actually hinders your ability to create. So you have to guard your, like, you have to ask yourself about every project, you know, is this about to be worth the mental health I will spend on it? You know? And one way to make that really, really work is to be able to emotionally check a box that says, I got paid, you know? And when you can do that, you can say, you know what, somebody valued my time. I've already been compensated for this. You know, no matter what happens at this point, I feel much more satisfied. And I know there was honor there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that's just kind of how that goes. People change their plans all the time. You know, I mean, I've been asked to do remixes before, and I've asked for, like, I'll save that for later. Never mind. But yeah, so there's just like one left. Featuring. What's a feature, Dimi?
A feature is, in my opinion, you add something of your sound. Maybe me, that I play the guitar, I add probably a guitar solo on a track, but that means I didn't do the complete work on the track. I didn't compose the whole track. I didn't mix it. I didn't master it. I just sent a guitar solo, which is, in my opinion, and what I think is right, does not deserve to get the whole percentage or half of the song. It needs to get something. I usually go for 30%. And I ask for a feature, meaning that I'm not a main artist. I'm someone that came here, played, add something small, and then went home. If, for example, if I was asked to add something, and that something was electric guitars, probably I changed some chord progressions in the bridge or whatever, then probably that becomes an artist collaboration instead of a feature. It's half and half.
Yeah, and how the music is published, you'll see that distinction, right? You'll see, you know, X artist and Dimi Kaye. That's where it goes from being X artist featuring Dimi Kaye.
Yeah.
And this has a big impact as well. Like, you know, anybody who's considering hiring a feature, I think it's important to say this. Your discography as an artist or a producer can be impacted greatly by the decisions that you make in how, or by the decisions the other artist makes in how they're publishing a song, if you're letting them publish.
Yeah.
So I made a mistake, Dimi, with you in the beginning. We put a great piece of music out. It's called Raining in Tokyo. And I did our first collab. And look at this. This is proof that you can make it work, guys. So you can make a mistake and you can get past it. But I made a huge boo-boo. I put Dimi down. I put you down as I think as a feature. And I named the song title Syst3m Glitch and Dimi Kaye. But then the art, I said Syst3m Glitch featuring Dimi Kaye, because the world I came from, like, you know, I come from like EDM and pop, you know, so like for me, featuring you know, it features John Mayer, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's John Mayer's being John Mayer on this song, you know what I mean? And that's it. And maybe he wrote some stuff. He wrote his solo, of course he did. The line is really tricky with like where a feature begins and ends. But that said, I made a mistake, and now instead of this song appearing on Dimi's discography, it appears on a section in Spotify, for example, that says artist appears on.
Yeah.
Right? no listeners go there. I'm just be real. You know, appears on. If you offer me that as a collaborator, it doesn't show any value to me. Like it doesn't help me make a decision, because it's like, oh, we're gonna have you appear on our song. Well, guess what? When you go to your numbers, when you go to your stats, when you go to your streams, when you go to your number of monthly listeners, the people that follow you, you'll never be able to track anything back to you from appears on.
Yeah,
nobody there. It doesn't add to your results. It does get you paid, but it doesn't help build you. And it's really like, if you're seeking to be discovered, if you want to be discovered, that's not a bargaining chip. So,
to add on that, Bobby, if I can, in our situation, and I need to stress that how you go about in collaborating with other people that you don't know. There needs to be a certain respect always. It wasn't in my job to tell you this and this and this needs to happen, because you are an artist, you know your stuff, that's the way you wanted it to do. It would be out of my place to actually suggest that. You know what I mean? It would be bad manners. Then we discussed it together after some time, and then we found that we are in the same mindset. It should be like that, but it's okay because we did something else in the future after that. And I think what I sent you earlier, if someone makes a mistake, it's not your job to tell them they did a mistake. If they don't ask you, they need to ask you, because we are not face to face with most of the people. It's only a chat message. You don't know how they react, how they are. We need to give a certain baseline of respect, if you know where I'm going with that.
I think it's while we're talking about features, I think it's important as well to bring up what's the featured artist's right. And this is, mind you, if you're watching and you're this far in, this is not Dimi and Bobby are talking about all the rights that all the featured and your collaborators and your remixers have. This is for you as well, like artists that are like seeking a collab or a remix or a feature too, because I think it's really important to remember that, like, if somebody that you're approaching has a brand already, or you have a brand, that brand has to be considered if brand matters to you. Like we said in the beginning, if you're just making music to have fun and whatever the heck comes out is what's going up in the world, that's cool. Like, do it. But if you do have a brand that you're caring for example, Syst3m Glitch, one of my projects, I love it. It's dear to me. It's about really the music. It's basically the music I would make. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not making anything that's not accurate to what I really, really love doing. It's Syst3m Glitch is a guy who's next door, who's wearing a jean jacket in the summer. It's way too hot. He shouldn't be doing it, but he just looks cool. And he is chewing bubble gum and he's playing Atari. You know, and he's dreaming about meeting the right girl one day. He wants to own a Corvette. You know, might have gotten caught shoplifting once. You know what I mean? Like, that's Syst3m Glitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the vibe of that project and of me as an artist even. And so, like, for that, it's really hard when somebody reaches out to you as a vocalist and then says, and as a guitarist I can imagine this to be true as well, hey, can you sing like Billy Idol? I'm like, well, I mean, I could sing a Billy Idol song, but no, can you do their voice tone? Can you do the sound like him? Well, sure. I mean, I guess I could do a Billy Idol impression. Okay, well, can you do this song with me and can you sing like that? That's a tricky territory.
Yeah.
It's sort of like yes and no, right? Go ahead.
Parenthesis, are we talking about a collaboration now or a work for hire? Because
that's exactly right. So what, like we said earlier, we're going to come back to the same point over and over. What did you set up in the beginning?
Yes.
Right? Because in the beginning, what we said is define your expectation. You know, if somebody's hiring me as a work for hire, they are purchasing everything that exists between here and here on my body for a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? They're taking my throat and my brain, and they're renting them out for the summer. You know, whatever. So they're borrowing my skills or my instrument, right? And they're saying, "Can you make that sound?" Sure. And as a matter of fact, I would prefer that to be work for hire. I would prefer somebody to be like, "Hey, we're going to pay you. We're not going to make any mention of you anywhere." You know, because if it doesn't match my brand, because I happen to also be an artist, you can't go throwing Syst3m Glitch onto a project that doesn't sound like from Syst3m Glitch, because then what happens is it shows up in that person's discography, and for their entire audience, for the rest of their career, there will be confusion about why that song exists in that list of songs. Because as a listener, I'm expecting this, and whoa, what's that? I don't like that one. this, and this. And it creates that confusion over that person's identity as an artist. And it makes it hard for you to buy into their brand because their brand is so scattered. You know?
Yeah.
So it's challenging. I do like doing those weird projects. We did a funky song about COVID that we never released. That was really, really good.
One of the best.
It's one of the best songs ever, and it never came out, and it stinks. But I'll tell you, it didn't sound like me. I mean, it was me, but I was singing like a Bobby Brown or something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It wasn't exactly. You know, it wouldn't have matched my brand, you know? So, in a way, it's kind of like cool that it didn't come out.
Out of instinct, probably I did that when I started working for other people. When I do works for hire, I ask them what if they have something in their mind, and give me ideas of what they might want.
Yeah.
And that's a work for hire. That's me working for them, playing guitar for them. If it's something that I can do, then all the power to them. They get something out of it, what they were looking for. But if I'm doing a feature or a proper collaboration, full collaboration, then I expect that the person that comes to me wants to work with me because of the way I sound. Not because they want something, a different sound. We can try stuff, we always do try stuff, of course, as we together know. We try various things, but I don't expect someone to come and tell me, Dimi, I want something like Slash does here, or like Malmsteen does there.
Yeah.
I expect them to know what they're getting when I do collaborations and features. For a work for hire, I expect I am the first person that asks, what would you like there? Any ideas of what style you want there? And then we try stuff.
Yeah. I think Raining in Tokyo is such a good example to kind of keep coming back to, because like when we were talking about it, like I knew that you were going to be a big contributor to that song. And, you know, I think the only thing I said was just like, play that solo and play the backing guitar and stuff. Do it the way you want, but make it hurt. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is sad.
Yeah.
You know, so like the question that you asked me was around the context of like, what's the vibe of the song?
Yeah.
But it was more about like, what are you trying to express, or is this the right emotion? It wasn't like, you know, I need a solo that lasts 8 bars and stops right here and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Because like you flipped me all that stuff, but then you trusted me as a producer and said, okay, if you need to cut anything or edit anything, you can do it. And I've worked with plenty of artists who won't make that concession. You know what I mean? On
that, and from my experience, when you do a work for hire, and I do it in collaborations and everything, get ego out of your system.
Yeah.
As we always say, we serve the song. It's not about your ego, about our ego. When I do a work for hire, I send them, I don't know how many stems with different ideas, and I let them choose whatever they want. If they want to stitch stuff together and Frankenstein them, perfect. If something that they stitch together sounds a bit weird, then I'll play it again the way they want it. Because it's their mindset, they paid someone to help them reach that idea they had. But I think you should give your collaborator too. But in a collaboration, you have the right to say, you know, my dude, this I don't enjoy how you made that, how you stitched that together. I think it doesn't work because of this and that reason. I think you have more to say when you do a collaboration. You should say more if you don't like it, but you also should share your stuff with your collaborator and let them play around.
Yeah. Now, if as an artist you're being asked to do a feature or something and you're actually trying to explore new territories, you want to show that you're diverse, that you have range, then if the song's not that far off your brand and you don't really care about brand or anything, then all of this that we've just said goes out the window because you can do whatever you want. You know, the point is that I think we're trying to make it really clear while we're talking is that, like, you have options. And so you need to be aware of those options so you can exercise those options. And then there's also things that are reasonable and unreasonable, even within all of those options, that I think everybody should know. As an artist, if you're looking for a collaborator, you need to know what to ask for, because I think a lot of times also collaborating artists like remixers or featured players, whichever academy you're on, they sometimes, like, artists don't know what to ask for.
Yes.
So they just make something up because they don't know. So I'll give you a quick example. This is not me trying to sell anything. If you don't like my vocals, yay, I hope you like the video. You know, but you know, I have rates and they're simple. If I'm doing a track and I don't have to write anything, and you just need me as a vocalist, and you just want me to stylize what you've written, maybe make a change here and there for taste, to make it more vocally possible, or something like that. You know, on a track, I usually charge like $200 bucks, $250, you know, something like that. It's not that much, you know, but it gives you like a third or a half of your song. You know what I mean? And then boom, you're done. You've paid me. I'm out. You can call me a feature if you want to. You don't have to call me a feature. But like, that would be a rate I would charge for a feature. I mean, I think your work for hire is similar, if I'm not mistaken. I'm wrong. So we can just say there's a range, and it's not $17.22. I will tell you that. But it's also not $1,000 either. You know, so there's a number usually on a per project song, per artist, whether they're huge and famous or whatever. I've got a very, I can't say, but there was an instrumentalist that I worked with recently that has a great reputation. And his charge to me was reasonable and within that range. You know, it was in the few hundreds space for a song. And I was happy to pay it. But we had an interesting conversation because he was of great reputation. I said, can I put you down as a feature on the song? And he said, usually I charge a little bit more to include my name actually being dropped on it because it goes to my discography. And I was like,
yes.
You know, it's so funny because as a feature for me, when I feature on people's songs, I'm like, yeah, please. You know, but then he's saying, you know, well, my real estate is valuable. And what that shows me is he's got maturity and he's got respect for his discography.
And I think you learn about that, and you can change each time. The work you did before actually informs what you can charge and what you can ask in the future.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I couldn't ask for something. They would say, is he an idiot? Is he asking for money?
Yeah.
To just write something. But now, and you too, you have done your work before. People know your name. You have that certain name in the scene. You can ask for stuff. And the person you are mentioning, of course they can ask. And I thought that they didn't ask for more for much when you told me the price. I thought it was very generous.
Yeah, it was definitely good. And I will say this, if you are hiring someone and they ask you for a deposit, or like the work for hire number is higher than you want, you should try to negotiate. At the same time, that person has every right to say, this is what my rate is, and they can say take it or leave it, because that's them. You know, like, Dimi, if I reach out to you for a project and say, hey, like, can we do this? And you're like, Bobby, it's going to be $500. And I'm like, I can't do that. And you're like, well, nice chat. You know, and that's the whole conversation. That's something you can do. I don't expect that it's something that you would do, but it is something that you can do. And we can't get too upset with collaborators that like do that, because I think, you know, what you don't ever know is you don't ever know how busy they are. You don't know if this is even their main line of work. You don't know what's required. Maybe if that's not your instrument, you don't know what's required to even accomplish it. I'll give you a real quick example. See this tube?
Sounds fantastic.
This is attached to a talk box, and it is the hardest instrument in the world. Oh my gosh, you have to play piano and then not sing, but sing, enunciate everything, get into a microphone, play a synthesizer, set it up right, do your pitch bends and talk, and the whole tube's trying to fall out of your mouth. All that stuff. Is that more money than if you asked me to play some chords on a piano? Yes, it is. Because it's hard. It's really, really hard, and it's cumbersome. And actually, the first time I even had a talkbox tube in my mouth, I played it, and one of my fillings came out of one of the back of my teeth. Like, it's a destructive instrument. Like, you know, it's wear and tear. You know, you're sitting in the chair, you're exhausted, your mouth tastes like plastic for the next 2 days. You know, if you're gonna pay me $5, I better really enjoy the project, is all I'm saying. You know what I mean? And I think that's important. Like you said, if you enjoy it and you just want to do it because you just want to do it, all this goes out the window.
Yeah.
You know, but some things are harder than others, and you don't understand what goes into it. Don't expect that somebody might be, don't believe that somebody's pricing you inappropriately necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the price is reasonable, you know, so that's all I'm saying.
And maybe we need to look at what kind of work is being happening. Is that person spending much of his time to do your guitar or talkbox solo, or do the parts that you need?
Yeah.
Say you went to ask for a normal job. How much would you pay a person for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of work?
Yeah.
And then equate that to music. Why music should be different? Since you get what you want, someone is doing the job that you need.
Yeah, like you said with the contractor example, I think that's really good when you said somebody's coming in to work on your wall. Because like they don't leave a metal plate on the wall that's engraved that said "This wall done by Johnny." You know what I mean? Like there's no memorial or like copyright in the corner on a plastering job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's important to remember. You know, like if you are going to leave someone completely off your track just because you need something they can do, you have to compensate them for it. But I think we've stayed on this so long, Dimi. You've definitely got your editing cut out for you to make this short, buddy. But
I don't have to do it short.
That's true
it's
too.
A proper conversation.
Yeah. What else did we have in our notes? Oh, if you don't want to do a project, if you're not feeling it, the meanest thing you can do to somebody is to drag it out. If you don't want to do a project and you're like, yeah, sounds good, bro, and then you wait and you wait and you wait and you don't start and you wait and you even start other projects while that one's just sitting back in the back of your pipeline not going anywhere, that's rude. I just want to tell you right now, that is rude. If you don't want to do the project, a fast no is so much more respectable and will probably cause that person to come back to you in the future with maybe a better opportunity. A fast no is so much better than lingering on a slow no. Even sometimes a fast no is better than a slow yes. I know that makes no sense at all. But like if it takes you forever to say yes and then you rush through something and you don't give it your best, that's not what that person deserves either. So I guess we're changing the subject over to maybe some experiences that we've had that have been not so good.
Yes, I'm a person that has difficulty saying no, and I should say no more times because either the project is not tailored for me or I cannot do it, but I, for example, cannot say no to that. Then my work is not good and they don't get what they need. It has happened in the past, yeah? It has happened that I did something just because I wanted to help the person and the experience was pretty bad. I spent way much more time without getting any respect. The chatting was a bit weird, like this, bordering disrespect, if you know what I mean. That I actually decided that okay, this will finish because I gave my word. I got nothing out of it, but it won't happen again in the future, and I know what to look for. It happens. It will happen. Sooner or later, you will find a person, an artist, that you won't get together well. You need to have the strength to say, no, this doesn't work. I'm sorry. Be respectful, be polite. You don't have to shout.
Yeah.
But a no is a no.
Yeah. Another thing I think that's a turnoff for me that I think a lot of folks should know about, especially if you're an artist. If you are asking, we're gonna work this out in math. Are you ready? Here's my cup of coffee. Just brace yourself. So this cup of coffee, let's just make an assumption that its contents are worth $3.25 if I got it from Starbucks, right? $3.25. Yeah. So if you are an artist that does not promote yourself on social media, and you approach me and you tell me, I'd like you to be a co-producer for this amazing hit that I'm working on, right? And I don't want to be too sarcastic, but that's where I'll stop my sarcasm. But if you want me to be a co-producer for this amazing hit that you're working on, and you have 122 monthly listeners on Spotify, a non-existent YouTube channel, the only thing you do on Twitter is tweet negative tweets. Your Instagram is like, this is my cat, right? And then don't want to pay, but are definitely willing to offer me exposure. Then why would I accept that? So think about what value proposition you're actually giving to people. And if you want somebody who is going to accept those kinds of terms, just understand that the person who's going to accept those kinds of terms is not going to offer you the same quality that you think you need. So bear that in mind. But this cup of coffee is $3.25. This represents 1,000 streams on Spotify at 100%. So let's say 2,000 streams. We're going 50-50 here. We're going to do a split. So 2,000 streams on Spotify for me to drink this down. That's a literal visual for you. Think about that for just a second. 2,000. I know artists who do phenomenal work, and none of their songs have 2,000 streams. They have put out a whole album and maybe bought themselves a cup of coffee. And that sucks, but it's real. And what that comes from is the lack of social media engagement, the lack of trying to get playlisted, the lack of building relationships, the lack of all that. So if you're going to offer me half of this cup of coffee, I am not willing to be paid with this cup of coffee.
Even though it's pretty.
It's very pretty, but this is the equivalent of what your co-producer will make on the result of your revenue split.
After
and they
3
won't
months.
I was just gonna say they're gonna get it in 3 months. They'll be able to there goes the money. It's gone, right? And so that is a reality check. The truth is, if you love your music and you're wanting to put your money into your music, because let's be real, you've got a different job. Okay, just most of us. Yeah. Dimi, I know you're in a great position right now. That's awesome. I am not there yet. But all of my income does not come from being Syst3m Glitch. It doesn't come from any of that. Like, I make 100 times what I make doing commercials, jingles, radio, advertising, factorydirect.ca. If you ever heard that, that's me. So if you're up in Canada, Factory Direct, I'm your jingle singer. So but there's all sorts of stuff like that going on. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing little soundtracks for little trailers, I'm producing podcasts. I do make money in audio, but it's definitely not in the scene as an artist. And I'm doing my best, and I'm seeing some things change a little, but my retirement plan is not called Syst3m Glitch. You know what I mean? Like, that's, and I'm being, I hope so, you know, maybe something will shift, something will break loose or something. Maybe I'll end up being on the soundtrack for Drive 2 and me and Kavinsky can fist bump and whatever. But if that doesn't happen, I don't want to be disappointed. There's a show coming out on Apple TV. It's called Mr. Corman. Have you heard of this, Dimi?
No.
It's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which I absolutely love.
He's great, yeah.
He's one of my favorites. And apparently he was a musician who was right on the edge of making it.
Uh-huh.
Had already started to, I guess. This is the way they trailer it up for you, okay? So he was like, he had like this next big thing going on. And he ends up, even in his youth, he's like our age, you know what I mean? So like, you know, I'm
close for, yeah.
somewhere between 20 and 41.
Yeah.
So, so he ends up being like a high school science teacher. And I am afraid to press play, even though that show fascinates me, because I'm concerned it's going to remind me of me too much and it's going to hurt.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so that's just getting real for a second, but like that's where we are. So I want you to know that if you are a high school science teacher and you're trying to get up onto that stage, it's not the money you're making from music that is paying the artists that you're paying. So don't mentally, I think a lot of people do this. They go into silos, you know what I mean? And they say, my music money is for my music. That's great, but your music money is not a sacrifice, right? Your music money is $13.26, and that's awesome that you can turn any effort into money. That's really hard in this world.
Yes.
You know, but that said, the science teacher income, you know, you use that money to get your next guitar. You know, you use that money to upgrade your Ableton. You know, you use that money to get your next plug-in, all your drum samples. You pay your mastering house out of science teacher money. You just do. So it's when you look at a collaborating artist, you have to look at it as a similar degree of sacrifice. Like, if I'm going to pay somebody to do this, I really need this, and somebody is going to be worth it. I got to find the right person. Again, Dimi and I aren't trying to sales pitch you us. That's not what this is. Find anybody, you know. But if you think they're worth their salt and you want them on your song, they're probably worth some sort of something.
Compensation, yeah. And let's be real. In our scene, there are only a few artists that actually live out of it, out of making that particular music. Most of us, when we do music, our music is a simple side income. For example, when I was living in Germany, I was working 10 to 12 hour days, and I bought everything from my, as you said, from the money I got from my job. Music made nothing to me. It was an investment. But the thing is that we love what we do so much that we actually want to make it our living. You want to be Syst3m Glitch, the main thing. You want to work on that every day. But you can't, because this past week you had your work cut out in your main job and you were pretty much dead. Am I wrong? Yeah. I remember that when I was working. Now I'm doing this full time. It doesn't mean that it gets me everything. It doesn't. I'm not living well out of it, but I want to do it all every day. And I have the option to do it because things in my life are such that I can do that. Focus only on music. Most of the people have families, have children, need to pay their house, whatever. They can't do that. But what I'm trying to say is that I bet you 95% and even more that make synthwave music love it. And it's great to get a compensation in a way out of it. Either if that's a percentage out of the song in DistroKid, or it's like in a work for hire when you give them actual money, or anything. Because it pushes you and it shows you the way that it can happen.
I don't know if you want to move this back to the work for hire section or just leave it here. It's totally up to you.
Yeah.
But like another thing that you're doing when you're paying somebody work for hire, and I know this sounds really harsh, you're also paying them to go away.
Ooh, I never thought about that.
I know that sounds crazy and it sounds really rude, but in a way it's kind of a good thing, right? The person shows up, they do work, they get compensated for that good work they do, and then you're paying them to leave. And it's really helpful for you as an artist to not have to keep track of another thing, right? It's one of those situations. I know why people say, I can put you on the split on DistroKid. I can give you 50%, but I can't give you 50% of Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Well, which is like the sales, right?
Yeah.
So when they say they can't, it really means they won't. Because what it means is they can't be bothered. And I understand that. I don't mean like in a rude way, but like it's difficult to keep track of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like if Bandcamp turns around and you like sell this single for like, $37.26, but over the course of like 17 months, I'm making a weird number for a reason. Yeah. You do that math. You figure that out. How much does your other person receive? When do they receive it? At what frequency are you going to do it? And are you always going to have the ability to do that forever? Probably not. It's kind of smarter to say, I can't do Bandcamp. So I understand why people have said that before. I was told that just recently. I'm fine with it. I said
that, yeah. I said that too. And many people actually say that to me.
They're fine. And one compromise you can always go after when it comes to that is maybe both of you put it up on your Bandcamp.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah.
You can both do that, and then whatever your sales are, your sales are, and that's fine. But work for hire, the benefit in the artist is to the artist as well is that you are paying them to go away, and it's not like get out of here and never want to see you again. But it's the end of you having to have that encounter. It's not going to become I play guitar from you in 2012. I think you owe me 37 cents. Can you please send me a check? Because
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants the check. No postal carrier wants to carry the check. It doesn't deserve to be on a boat going over the Atlantic. It just doesn't. And so let's just not. You know what I mean? So that's all.
Yeah.
So. What about rookie mistakes, Dimi?
Let's put them like in a relative bullet point. Talk with your collaborator. First thing you need to do. Talk with your collaborator. Explain what you need to have and what they need to have, and figure it out. That's the main mistake that I think it would solve many problems. Because we get in a collaboration, things move, and then we discover that something does not work, and because we haven't talked about it before, then we cannot, it's a bad manners to go back and say, hey dude, I did this for you, now I want this much money. When you haven't talked with them about money, it's bad manners. It's a reputation killer for me, I believe. So first thing, explain what you need, in my opinion. Yeah. What would you say?
Yeah, I think when I was saying rookie mistakes, I think it wouldn't be bad to remind people about that over and over again. But what I think I was saying is like, sometimes you're going to work with somebody. And again, at the very beginning, we said like, you don't want to say that you don't understand a terminology or how something works because you don't want to come across looking like you don't know. And then maybe you even agree to something, right? Like we talked about that you didn't understand just because you didn't want to look stupid. Well, you got to get past that first off. Hey, I apologize. This is my first time doing this. Can you please explain to me what that is? Nobody's hiring you because of your knowledge of the music business. They're hiring you because they heard your vocals and they think your vocals are good. Yeah. They full well know that they may have to explain what payment and arrangements and decisions look like. Just have them do it. They're already ready to do it. They know how to talk to you about it. They want to talk with you about it. But if they knew that you were going through all this turmoil, like, oh gosh, you said WFH and I don't know what WFH stands for, and oh golly, I guess I'll agree to it. I just, it's not like I would get the work if I said no. You start going through all this stuff, and the guy's like, just, I have him explain to you that it means we're gonna write you a check. So like that, to me, what I'm saying, I think with rookie mistakes is, you may get the sense as a collaborator that the artist you're getting ready to work with doesn't know what they're asking for. Or doesn't know how to ask, or might be not thinking about something that you may have to bring up.
Yeah.
For example, I was doing a remix recently, and I was having a conversation with somebody. I was like, hey, who's paying for the mastering costs? And they're like, huh, I don't know, who is? You know, and this is one of those projects that I loved, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'll do it this time. But I did tell him, I said, in the future, if you do a remix with somebody else, they probably will expect you to. So just know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I'm totally fine with how it turned out. You know what I mean? But, you know, that's just one of those things. So when people are not sure about something, or maybe they're leaving a detail out, I do think it's important that you surface all of those things as much as you can. You do it early on. Now, Dimi, I think you and I must have been talking for around an hour, but you know, these conversations really, when you put them into practice, they take like 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah, go on.
Let me say this, that many people are wondering how you get into a collaboration. It's very simple. You send a message to the guy or the girl or whoever, and you say, hey, I like your stuff. I think this and this is pretty cool. Would you like to maybe work with me? It's as simple as that. I have this and that. It's like 2 messages. It's not hard. You may get to know someone. You may get to work on something cool, but it's simple.
In terms of like how to offer yourself to somebody else, I think you want to get a little specific as well. Like if you have an idea, don't just go to somebody and say, I want to work with you. Because I want to work with you to that person comes across like, I'd like to borrow your reputation, please.
Oh.
You know? Because, you know, it does happen, right? Somebody says, well, I really, really like your stuff. Any chance we can work on something together? And then they ask without any specifics. It just says, I would like to work with you and I connect with you, but I don't really know what that looks like. So you put that person in a position then of like having to figure out, well, where am I going to use this person? What is this person? You know, so it's very important to say, hey, I heard, this is what I did recently, and this worked out really well for me on a remix, by the way. I'm ready to do a remix for a band who has never allowed a remix, ever. And I'm super excited about it. And all I said was, I listened to your album recently. This single interests me very much, and I have some ideas for the direction I'd like to take a remix on that song. Can I do that? But if not, are there any other songs that you'd like to have an experienced remixer, you know, take an approach to? And they had a band meeting, they made a decision, and they sent me stems.
Yeah.
And that was it. You know what I mean? But it was very specific, so they knew what they were talking about. If it was just like, hey, this guy Bill reached out to me from nowhere and said he wants to be considered to work with us in the future, there's nothing there.
Now I get you. Now I get you.
Very important.
Because in our situation, when we work with other people, usually when someone comes, they send you also a track that they think that your voice or my guitar could work. Yeah. So yes, that's what I also do. When I have someone in my mind, and I want them to work with me, I will send them something in order to have a basis and decide if they do want to work.
Yeah. You can totally go that far and say like, hey, I prepared like an example of what this would look like for you. If you're really trying to get a job, like if you're, you know, in the opposite situation, right, where you're looking to feature on something or you're looking to remix something, like there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I've prepared 3 little example remixes for you. Like, and they can be 30 seconds long each. Yeah. And say, hey, these are just proof of concept. Is there one of these that you really, really like and you'd like me to go forward with? And then all of a sudden you're having a completely different conversation. You've positioned to that person, which of the 3 do you like? Pick one and we'll do it. You know, I mean, you haven't said, would you like to work with me at all? Yeah, you know, it's a completely different question.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're correct about that. But it all starts with a message. That's what I wanted to say earlier. Don't be afraid to send a message and tell people that you like their stuff, because everyone likes to hear when someone else enjoys their music. Yeah. So don't be afraid to do that. After that, when the conversation happens and you see that you are both going somewhere and you want to do something, then you do need to have the talk about about what you expect, what they expect. It needs to happen, because it will keep your mind free from thinking stuff that you shouldn't while you create music. Yeah, what I would say is this. Yes, if you want to just take part in a collaboration and work with people, go for it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it gives you. But eventually, if you see that you want to do it full time you want your time to matter, the time you put in your music matter, and it definitely pushes you do more, then consider dealing with the other people and properly know what to ask and what to expect from your collaborations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good key. And if I was going to wrap up by saying anything, I think the whole point I was trying to express was just simply that, I think we should all go out of our way, to your point, to find something that people can agree on, where people feel valued. I think it's important for folks that are seeking a collaboration, like the artist that wants a contributor. I think it's important for that person to understand that they need to be willing to show something that represents respect, honor for that person's time. And then on the other side, it's important for the sought collaborator to know also that the other person may, if they ask you for something unreasonable, it may not be because the other person is trying to screw you. That's not necessarily true. So I want to make sure that, I know we've talked about a lot of like warnings and stuff, but there's a lot of silver lining here. I don't think everybody intends poorly. Sometimes I think just a good question to clarify, hey, you said 5%. How did you get to that number? What made you think about that number? And then they explain it and they say, oh, I just think that's pretty normal. And then at that point, that's what you think. That's wrong. And you can say, well, as I understand, it's customarily a little bit closer to 50%. So can we agree on a number? Let me know what you think. So I think collaborations are great. I think you can get so much more out of a collaborative effort that would have never been possible on your own.
Yep.
Some really cool music comes from people working together.
Yeah.
There's plenty of examples throughout history we could look at that show that to be true. But
Hall and Oates.
Yeah, Hall and Oates. Yeah. Could you imagine just a group called Oates? So
it would be healthy, I guess.
It would be very good for your bowels. So anyway, Dimi, I really appreciate you wanting to take some time, and I hope that when this goes out that somebody got something.
That's the main thing, that hopefully someone will understand what's happening in this situation, because again, I didn't know how things work. I had to learn. Hopefully with this video people will get ideas of what's happening and what to expect. I hope it's helpful.
I just want to help people make less mistakes along the way. If I can save you from one really, really bad memory that you'll have to deal with for the rest of your life, then I've done my job.
That's great. Yeah.
So, and really the big key there is having boundaries and knowing what things are worth, but also really, trying to be cautiously optimistic about situations and try to get the most out of them. So, last time I guess we'll say it, but make sure it's all understood up front, because I think it makes a huge difference. And if you'd like to see more videos like this where we talk about different subjects, or you maybe even like how we actually approach music instead of just the business of music, then let us know down in the comments, because I think we could have more of these chill times.
Easily. Yeah, we can talk about many things that can help other producers or artists. I'm sure about that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Awesome.
I mean, thanks for having me, man.
So that was Syst3m Glitch. Thank you, Bobby.
Wherever he is, this is Dimi Kaye.
Next time.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.